I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never should, baby.
We dipping into it. When I dip, you dip, we dip, 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 dip. Oh God! You know we're just gonna lose. People are just gonna turn it off right after that.
The podcast, I'm just gonna put that on repeat. Just
you
burps.
belching.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's episode 97, and it's the final episode of Horrorfest 2023.
Yeah.
And we're doing psychological horror.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, one of the subgenres that has the biggest gulf between like really good and really bad, or has the potential for that. Like, there's some real stinkers and there's some really, really good ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. How would you define psychological horror?
Well, I mean, just not reading, just off the top of my head, I think that psychological horror is a subgenre of horror and psychological fiction with a particular focus on mental, emotional, and psychological states to frighten, disturb, or unsettle its audience.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. What's interesting about psychological horror is that, like most straightforward horror films usually tend to incorporate more of the supernatural or the otherworldly or the unnatural. Whereas psychological horror, there are plenty of psychological horror films where nothing supernatural happens, but it plays on some very disturbing, it can go into very morbid territory, or it can hint at something otherworldly without being explicit about it. I think like The Silence of the Lambs is a great example of nothing supernatural happening, but it goes, it's almost like a very, very, very classy slasher movie in a way. But it's so yeah, that's kind of how I think that's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, Silence of the Lambs is like, to me, if you just said like a horror movie, like that is up there. Like, no, I didn't even really consider that as psychological horror. Just like, I figure if everything's a subgenre, what is the genre? And I would put Silence of the Lambs there. But yeah, I guess it kind of could be. I'm thinking, I guess because of what I've seen recently, there have been a couple bad ones that are too abstract, leave you unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, psychological horror, I think, has the biggest potential to waste your time.
Yeah.
That's how I felt with Skinamarink. I really stop.
Sorry.
Well, what do you drink? Well, why are you so gassy?
I'm just drinking just vodka. I don't know why it's no. It's just water.
Well, you're very gassy. You need to be burped. So Skinamarink, I think I really like. I liked the vision. I think that director, I forget his name, is Canadian. It was very, very low budget, which is totally cool. Like, very cool, actually. With what he was able to do, it was just an hour too long, and the movie was only an hour and 40 minutes. Should have been a 40-minute movie. It should have been a short film. It actually would have been it was just too much of nothing. Yeah. Of just like kind of, I don't even know what to call it, like weird, scant stuff. Yeah. That, okay, like it's old-timey cartoons, which are practical because they're in the public domain. It's stuff on walls. It's like Dutch angles and weird angles of doorways and stuff. Like, it was just too much, and it didn't have the payoff, even though there were a couple of really good scenes. Didn't feel scary enough. There were, I'd say, like one scare in it. Amy's Men. I'm saying these ones because these ones I watched recently. These are both 2023 movies. Also, just say Skinamarink again. It's like yeah, we say it all the time. It was like, is Skinamarink the scariest movie ever? Like it had those kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And no, it's not, by the way. But I did see, it was one of those movies that I saw the preview of in theaters for, I think it was After Sun. So that was like last winter, maybe like last December or January. And yeah, because that was the last Oscars. So that would be like December. And the audience was like, holy shit, like that movie looks scary. Like I was like, oh, I made a note of that. Like when that comes, like I'm either gonna see that in theaters or I'm gonna wait a little till like now, like October. And if I haven't seen it by October, it's not on streaming. I'm gonna go to see it in theaters unless it has really bad reviews, which doesn't have great reviews. But it looked real. So I guess I was kind of disappointed. Ennie's Men, I just threw on because it was horror and it's 2023. So I try and watch as many movies from the year as possible that interest me. And also just one of those movies where like unreliable. I guess that's another feature of psychological horror, is like not that there's a narrator, but unreliable, I don't know, like director, I guess you would say. It's just this one, it was better and worse in a way. What's really cool, which I think you would like about this movie, is that it takes place in the 70s and it looks like it was shot in the 70s. I didn't look up because I haven't read the review yet, like what it was shot on, but the look is very cool. It has that kind of what's the one Scotland? What am I thinking of? The something, not the witch doctor. Oh my god, I'm blanking so hard. You know what I'm saying? Nicolas Cage was in Nicolas Cage.
Oh, the Wicker Man.
Wicker Man, yeah, the Wicker Man. So it has like the original Wicker Man vibes, like an island. This is off off of Cornwall, which is like the southwest peninsula in England. Very secluded, and it's like cozy because it's like, oh, you're in a cottage making tea in a knit sweater, like a turtleneck. And it's like weird little kids doing like folksy shit and sailors and all that kind of stuff, just like appearing, kind of like the typical common thread in folk horror is like the ground itself is haunted, like the land is part of the monster, kind of like Lovecraftian, where it's like the land itself, that's like American kind of folk horror in a way. But it's just no questions are answered. It's not it's even less scary. Like I honestly, I felt kind of gypped that it was even considered horror, like psychological. I don't know, because it wasn't a very good movie. But so you haven't seen those, right? So I'll stop talking about them.
I watched Skinamarink Rink Dink or whatever.
Oh, you did see Skinamarink?
Yeah, I did see that one. Yeah.
Oh, what'd you think?
I seem to be one of the few people who's like very much in the middle on it, because some people either love it or they either hate it.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed it more than you, but I think I was also my roommate watched it and he and I have similar tastes in horror, and he loved it. So granted, he saw it in theaters. I saw it on my laptop. So maybe that kind of lessened my experience of it. But I thought it was. I definitely understand your critique, though, that it did go on too long.
It was too much of the same thing.
Yeah. It did have some really. I thought it did a great job of building up a lot of tension, but it just didn't really pay off. So
tension to what?
I know exactly. Yeah,
like that. Like I agree, and that's what it's a very tense movie, but there's no payoff. And if you don't relieve that tension with like a scare or something, you feel like you're like that. Like that's what I'm here for, right? I didn't stumble into this movie, you know. It's no, I'm here for thrills and scares, and I did love the line in Skinamarink where it's like, I'll paraphrase, it was like, she didn't listen, so I took her eyes. I was like, that's a great fucking line. Like that's that's like a tagline for a horror movie. That had a little body horror. The ending I thought was like what did you think of the ending? Where
so I looked up what the actual meaning of the movie is, and I did not see that at all in the movie. I did not like. Do you want me to tell you what it supposedly actually is? Apparently, like the kid, because apparently it's told from the perspective of a child or a couple of kids or something. Apparently they're in hell. And I guess they're just kind of reliving like these traumatic incidents with their parents or something over and over again. Like that's their hell.
Why are children in hell? Like,
I don't know. I mean, that's what I mean. It's just sort of like, okay, I didn't really get that from the movie. I don't really
know. Did the director say that, or?
I think so. I something like this is something connected with the film.
He's wrong.
Somebody should tell him.
Because a good interpretation of that movie would be, I get it's from the children's perspective, and because kids like don't have agency like adults do, like the whole windows going away and the door going away and feeling trapped and not being like, when you're a kid, you do have those feelings because you can't just like get in a car and drive away. You can't even like necessarily run out of the house, and like other people are so in control of what happens to you. Like that would be like that suffocating feeling of helplessness. That is like scary. I just don't think it came across the right way. It felt like it was a lot more what's the term, like style over substance. I don't know, man. It was, like I said, if it was 40 minutes, I think it would have been really cool. An hour and 40. Like I said, and I don't mean this to be to be a dick, but it was like, it felt like a film grad student's final project. And I don't mean that in a bad, like that's a really cool thing you did, but it shouldn't be an hour and 40 minutes on Hulu. Or really in theaters. And I don't mean to like sound like an asshole, because I couldn't have created that. But like from a storytelling perspective, it was just far too much. Too much with not enough payoff.
And I'm usually pretty comfortable with ambiguity, and I'm usually pretty comfortable with something where it's like, okay, this is not meant to be understood on like a logical level. Like, you know, like David Lynch, I think is a great example of, you know, something that makes sense on a more psychological or emotional level, even if it's not necessarily on a logical level. And it's something where it's like, okay, like I'm not here to understand and figure out the piece. I'm here to just like enjoy the weird mix of imagery and sound. And but yeah, I do think that Skinamarink was a little too spare in that department. One thing that it did kind of connect with me on is, and I'm curious to get your take on this. To me, I wish I had not heard that interpretation or that explanation that it's kids in hell or something.
You heard that before you watched it?
No, afterwards. Because for me, this is like a kid's nightmare. So for me, like the first house that I lived in as a kid, we had this there's like a cellar that went under our house
in California.
Isn't
that rare?
It's funny because like the last, other than the house that I live in now, that the last two houses that I lived in have basements.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a coincidence or if it's
where
more
you keep
common.
all the bodies and white slaves.
But we had this little thing that went under the house, and my parents always told me don't go under there.
Not really helping my comments.
I know, but I mean, you know, I mean, the only reason they said I did, like, they let me peek under, and it was just because like it was low ceiling, and so, like it just went like 3 feet under the house, and it was just because it was pipes and spiders and stuff like that. Gotcha. But because they said, you know, don't go under there, it's dangerous. But like, because I always had that thing of like, well, what is under? And so like connecting that to Skinamarink, where it's like, you know, I just interpreted the movie as being like a children's nightmare of like, don't go in the closet because something's there or something like, and like the idea of doors moving around and windows and like the, you know, like the architecture of the house like moving around. I thought that was cool. And so to me, it just seemed like, you know, a children's, like a child's imagination just, you know, going nuts, and like going into their nightmares. But yeah, I do think that it did go on too long. And
like
a few more hints of what it could have been, of what the story actually would have been nice. Like I said, like those little nuggets of like, you know, dialogue and stuff like that was interesting. Like that was the sort of thing that made me go, oh, okay, all right, that's cool. I want to see where this goes, and then it didn't go anywhere.
It definitely messed with you. It has like the POV of the child, right? Like some of the time, not all the time. And she looks under the bed. I can't remember. Doesn't it switch?
I think so.
Like this also gets confusing. But like, you look under the bed, you expect something scary and nothing's there. The parents is kind of like sitting on the edge of the bed. That's always creepy. Like it's these kind of things though that's very cool and honestly kind of easy to do. It's just, well, what are we? It was more of like you had this good setup, you had this good idea. I don't, like, you would know better than I would. I don't know, and maybe your roommate. I want to ask what he liked about it, but the effects of it, like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know if it's all computer generated. I don't know if they literally glued things or taped that like to the ceiling and to the walls. Like that was all cool, but I'm like, what is it? Okay, if it's hell, like why? Like what's hellish about a chair going to the ceiling? Like just all of a sudden, like, I don't know. That, and then like, is it the devil who's tells the kid to stab himself with the scissors?
I guess so.
Like I don't know. It's too much of that. It's like, okay, like it's creepy, it's weird. Like what are we doing? And that to me, like I'm okay with the ambiguity too, but it has to kind of be earned. Like it's not just, oh, I'm avant-garde, like I'm gonna do a bunch of weird shit and you figure it out. And I was thinking about this when you were talking. I thought this analogy of like psychological horror, probably I'm like literally thinking out loud here, but like probably I would say is is analogous to like abstract art, where like it can hit really well and it gets below the surface. Like a piece of abstract art, someone could look at that and go like I feel that, like I feel that rage, or I feel that depression, or I feel that like joy, or they could look at it and go, my toddler could make that. Like it has that, it has that ability to, and like seeing the psychological horror, it's like that could be so touching, so intense, so moving, or it could be like that was a total waste of time. And I just think they had the subgenre like possesses that ability more than like a zombie movie or a slasher or something. Well, it's not like there aren't good and bad slashers. Of course there are. Sure. And some can be deeper or not. And you don't always want deep things. Sometimes it's fun to just have schlocky horror. Like I think out of any subgenre, out of any genre, that's what people come for the most. But the bad, and I did bitch about a bad slasher. I watched a really bad slasher and really bad exorcism movies. But in general, they are. It's harder to make bad ones, I think, because of people's expectations.
Yes, and also just the rules that I think I don't want to necessarily say govern slasher and zombie and demonic possession films, but at least like because there are some, I guess, rules. When you go to a zombie movie, you're expecting to see corpses, chasing people. So at least, and like you said, like, it can be done badly, but can be done well. Yeah, sure. And even a bad zombie movie can be fun. Even a bad slasher movie can be like, I'm just gonna watch this.
That's a good way to put it. It's like they can, doesn't mean they're all fun. Like I said, that slasher Alone at Night sucks. Like, do not watch that movie. It's a shit movie. But yes, a lot of them cannot be necessarily good, but they can be fun. Psychological horror, I think it's hard to have like a fun psychological horror movie that
you just hate watch and enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I can't think of any, right?
Because there are a lot of like monster creature feature flicks where it's like, the movie's it's garbage, but it's something where it's like, if it's the only thing that's on a Friday night and I'm home, so I can drink beer and eat pizza and watch the stupid creature movie. But like a psychological horror, it's like,
exactly. Like, you don't have to put it down that much. Like they could just be fun in their own way. Like they don't have to be Oscar bait. They don't have to be like that's. I don't rate movies always just based on like the dramatic acting or something, or like, no, of course not. Like it's what does it bring you? It's a below the surface type of feelings. Were you entertained? Like I wasn't entertained watching Alone at Night. I was angry because it was so shitty. I could watch a not great movie that's something that's going to be up for an Oscar, but I was entertained. It was fun. It made me laugh, or it made me feel nervous or tense or whatever that is, even if overall it's not a great movie. Like and that's fun. But psychological horror, that's tough to do.
Well, I think also because there aren't too many rules that kind of that psychological horror movies stick to, because like psychological horror can go into demonic, it can go into supernatural, it can go into more true crime type stuff. So it's not like I think there's also a lot more subjectivity involved too, where you're just sort of like, that was too much of a slow burn for me. or yeah, that was great. You know, it was creepy, but it was also profound and deep. So it's you're right. Like there's like a huge gulf.
Yeah. Can you? Yeah. Well, I don't want to spend. I just last thing on Skinamarink is what did your roommate like about it?
He just I think just loved everything about it. He watched it 3 times in theaters alone. Yeah.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I would love to talk to him about why he loved this so much. That's crazy to me. Because if I spent one ticket on this movie, I'd be angry.
Yeah.
I can't believe he went and saw it 3 times. I mean, no, I mean it's the opposite for him because he loved it.
Yeah.
Apparently. And okay, that's what's great about art, right? And that's what's great about movies. But I don't get it. Like, I think
also like maybe you know because he's you know he's the one who does sound for movies and TV shows and things. So I think maybe just from a filmmaking perspective, it was very inspiring to him. Where it's like, whoa, this filmmaker was able to make a creepy thing just in his own house with just whatever was lying around and make it like a really cool style. So maybe he was able to appreciate more from like a technical standpoint.
And I try and appreciate that too, because I think the budget was like 15 grand or something. And like, yeah, that's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not like, I love that. Like, I love that. Like, again, I even noted like I'm gonna look out for this director. I think he's gonna make great things.
Yeah.
But this was presented like this wasn't like a home pro. Like this had, like we said, this was in wide release. I don't know if it was wide release because I saw the trailer in New York and you're in LA. But like it's in big cities.
Yeah.
Right. It's before Oscar nominated movies. It's on Hulu. Like, I'm sorry. Like I have to hold it to a regular standard. And I just think like it should have been a short film.
Yeah.
Again, I give it a lot of credit. I think I gave it like a 46 or something, which is not very good.
Yeah.
But I can't I couldn't recommend that movie to someone and be like, I couldn't say you should see this.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel that like I'm never gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
So
I might watch it again. I might because I've met enough people. Right. Who but they do tend to be a little more artsy, so maybe they were kind of like, oh, this is such a moving film, so maybe I shouldn't trust their opinions. I'm willing to give it another shot, but not for a while though.
I'm just checking the Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah.
Wait, what the fuck? Oh my God, no, I don't want the fucking trailer. Rotten Tomatoes. It says 72. Why does it keep bringing me the goddamn trailer? Okay, I'll give it a sec. It says 72 for the critic score. And then let's see what the audience. They'd love it, hate it, around the same. So yeah, the audience was much lower. The audience was at 44. So the critics like this more. So I'm with the audience on that one. That's the opposite of some other movies.
You're
like
voice of the people, Ben.
No, I like it depends. Not like if we're gonna talk about Possessor, I'm with the audience. I'm actually shocked about how low the audience, excuse me, I'm with the critics. Possessor, I gave it an 89. I think it's like a 94 with critics, and the audience is like in the 50s. So can we talk Possessor? Because I really enjoyed that. I really liked it. In fact, it's one of those movies that I always kind of like. I usually don't write the review that day or the next day or the day after that. So like I have time to mull on movies sometimes. And that's one of the movies I caught myself thinking about. That's always a good sign. I caught myself watching YouTube videos about it, like breaking it down even more. I don't always use those. I'm like, if I miss something at like an idiot, I'm like, oh, well, I thought this, but I didn't realize something. So I'm not going to take any points off for that. Or just to get a better understanding of the movie. But like Possessor, this is Brandon Cronenberg, who is the son David Cronenberg, king of body horror. I think, did we do an episode on him?
We've definitely talked about, was it the Crimes of the Future? I don't know if
we did. We did Crimes of the Future episode. That was David. That was the dad. So we did talk about, I think we talked about Infinity Pool, which is Brandon, which I didn't really like, to be honest. That was another movie that also I saw the trailer for before After Sun with Skinamarink. So I'm like, all these movies are going to be awesome. I did Infinity Pool. I gave much higher than Skinamarink. I think I gave it like a 68. I checked today when I was doing Possessor. So not great. Kind of a disappointment. Very cool idea. But Possessor is awesome. I love that movie. I know you might not feel the same way, but it is like, to me, it struck such a great balance between the body horror that you're expecting with Cronenberg. Like I won't even say political commentary, but just like society. Like I thought it was very cool that I'm going to get into that in a second because I want to give a little background first. Here's what I loved about this movie, because when I wrote the review for Kill Boksoon, which was a Korean assassin movie, I've written in that I'm starting to get assassin fatigue, and I think I talked about that on the show too. I'm like, I'm getting the assassins, the well-dressed assassins, and the secret societies, and and I'm kind of over it. I really like John Wick. I'm going to watch the new John Wick, but there's too much of that right now. Yeah. Possessor is not that at all. It's like an alternate 2008 is what it says. And it's like these aren't like suited assassins in a high rise driving nice cars and training at schools. This is like all mental. This is about the consciousness. These are like a handful of people in some unnamed kind of backroom laboratory that they basically are in the service sector. Like they service clients, and they're not like the good guys. Like I think too many assassin movies make the assassins out to be the good guys, or they're not like pure evil. They're honestly just like providing a service for money. The people that they're assassinating sometimes are like the least sympathetic people possible, but the people that they're working for just want the same thing. Like, and I think that's very real and cool, and a very like honest look at society, whether that's politics or corporations, capitalism, even like socialism. Like anyway, like people just want power, people want money. You know, they could say whatever, and I thought that's a really cool part of Possessor, and that's not like in your face either. That's like just something that you realize watching it. The acting is fantastic, and then the commentary is like literal data mining, where Christopher Abbott, I think his name, he's in Girls actually, which I'm rewatching. He was in the first couple seasons of Girls, and he's really good. And it's like unsuspecting victims who have their consciousnesses honestly taken over by the possessors who are and they have their bodies used to carry out a mission, and then they actually are killed by themselves. Like again, they're not controlling their own body, so that there's no kind of trail. And it's just a really, really cool movie. It's like Inception, but for adults. Like this is like a really extreme version of Inception. It's like Inception instead of dreams, though. It's just like your consciousness. But yes, it's definitely like Inception in that respect. I think those are like the big parts of it. It has a great twist, kind of like a cool twist. It's all about self-interest and losing your humanity, and it has a very like I mean, I even think of this when I wrote the review, but Blade Runner in the sense of are you connecting with objectivity and reality? And this is a test that they kind of do to themselves. So Andrea Riseborough's character, her name is Voss, I forget her first name, but like every time after she does a mission, she goes and she looks at objects in a box and she says, this was my grandfather's pipe, this was this, and like, so that's to connect. And then of course Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is a retired assassin who's giving the test, but it's more of like the test to herself, to Voss herself. And it just obviously plays a role. I won't give anything away, but I really think like even though this came out in 2020, this is not even Cronenberg's newest movie, Brandon Cronenberg's newest movie. Like this movie is really, really good. And like, honestly, for me, like I needed to see something like this, because I've been watching a few stinkers, some good stuff, but overall like not good. And this was such a pleasant surprise. Yeah. I liked it more than I didn't. I think, it had a lot of elements that I definitely liked. I think it just left me feeling very cold. I think it has this very bleak, super dark. Yeah. And so it just kind of left me kind of feeling like, okay, so all of that stuff just happened and I'm not really sure what to make of it. But I definitely enjoyed, a lot of the style of it. Did you watch the R-rated one, or did you watch the unrated or the NC-17 one? I watched whatever's on Hulu. Oh, okay. Then you did not watch the more graphic. Really? It's pretty graphic. I know. Yeah. There was, okay. Are you sure? I think it said uncut. Did you see an erect penis in it? Yes. Oh, okay. Then yeah, you did watch the uncut one. Yeah, I saw an erect penis who was It's not who you think it is, right?
It's when he's like he's got the when that chick is in his consciousness and he's with his day-to-day job and he's got those goggles and he's looking through footage or whatever.
Oh, I thought
it's kind of like this voyeuristic thing.
It's voyeur, but no, I thought you see it when it's Voss as him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, but when she's as him, but like during his day job, where it's like this weird voyeuristic thing.
Well, they're data mining. That's what they're doing. It's literal. That's what's cool about it. It's like it's literal people looking at. But it's very much what I said in my review. It's like it reminds me of how the way that these lanyard wearing, collared, short sleeve shirt wearing kind of tech people, they're kind of like plodding along in line. It also reminded me of Winston Smith in 1984, just like a different version of that, just like a cog in the machine. And here the character works for the company, his future father-in-law, who's played great by Sean Bean, who is you are totally okay with him getting killed.
And he doesn't.
He doesn't. Right. Yes. But like you're like, oh yeah, kill
comes so fucking close to it too.
This guy is horrible. Again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, eat the rich. Like, no, he's not just rich. Like he's not just absurdly rich. He's like a huge asshole, like huge piece of shit. And runs this company where humans look through I think it's through like their laptop webcams or whatever. And like his job. So this character, Colin is his name. His job is to just like look at curtains in everyone's room. Like what curtains do they have? Like that's it. Just check the curtain, say the type of curtain. Even if people are like fucking on the bed, don't look at them, check the curtain. And I think that's like a very cool kind of personification, I guess, of data mining. Like what's it like, anthropomorphizing data mining. I just think like that's one of those little things that you wouldn't even really consider. It's like, oh, that's a really interesting take on this thing that happens to like all of us like every day.
I liked one thing I definitely liked about the film was like there's this really cool sequence where it kind of shows like the consciousness kind of like merging or switching, and it's like this really crazy like abstract, like
so kind of like melting. When they're melting. Yes, that's so good.
I love that.
That's what I'm saying, man. That is awesome. And when they're connected and they kind of like break apart and it's all like grisly, like that makeup effect, like that to me looks. I bet you that was a practical effect.
Oh yeah.
And that looks amazing in 2020. Yeah, like that wasn't CGI, or I don't think it was CGI.
I don't think so either.
It looks so good, looks so real, and that's the kind of shit that like we watch movies from the 80s for.
Yeah,
you know, or the 90s.
You know what's funny about that actress who played the main chick?
Yeah, she was up for an Oscar last year for a different.
Oh, she was for which one?
For Dear Leslie. It was actually kind of controversial because they actually changed the rule, I think, this year because it was one of those movies that like no one saw. I saw it because I just go to my way to try and see all the Oscar noms, but like no one really saw it. No one like cared, but a bunch of like celebrities really liked it, so they promoted it and it got onto the nominations, and she gets an Oscar nom for it. It was a good movie. She's a drug addict, like mom, just who makes bad decision after bad decision. If I remember, I just think it shows addiction in a way that's like way too easy to overcome, and then she's like running a small business, and I'm like, I don't. Okay, like I don't know. I'd like to see it in 5 years. I'm not saying you can't overcome addiction. Of course, like the way they portray it seemed a little too simplistic.
Right. Well, the reason I bring her up is because I saw her in another horror movie. Is the Nick Cage one, Mandy? You ever see that one? Oh
no, what's that one again?
That's the one where it takes place in the 80s, and he and his wife, played by that actress, they're attacked by this sort of like almost like a Hellraiser biker gang.
Hellraiser, like the movie Hellraiser.
The movie, yeah, like they're vaguely demonic. There's something like culty and like
are they human?
Mostly. What's weird about them? It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I remember they were mostly decked out in like black leather. Their faces were covered, but like whenever they were fighting or getting stabbed or whatever, like they just kind of emitted like these weird screams and stuff. So it was kind of hinted that they might not be fully human.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wild movie. I recommend it. It's pretty metal. But anyways, I bring it up because that actress, she's kind of pretty like in real life, but every movie that I've seen her in, they always make her really weird looking because she's kind of like she's got like bleached hair in Possessor.
Yeah.
And then in Mandy, she's got like just straight black hair, so she's got like this weird like Morticia Addams thing going. But then when you look at her in real life, she's like, oh, you're a nice looking woman, but it's like they always like fuck her up.
She's very very thin, very angular. But she's pretty. Yeah, she's pretty and like I don't know, like she'd kind of be like a hot mom. I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, she I think in Dear Leslie, I think that's what it is, or To Leslie, something like that. It might be To Leslie.
Yeah.
She's an addict, but she like that's another thing too. Like she's still pretty, even though she's an addict. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, some are, but a lot of your interest. I don't know. Also, a fun part of that movie is like she wins the lottery in the beginning, or like she had already won the lottery, and it starts like she's like blown through all her money. That's like how the movie starts. That's not a spoiler. And I don't know. Yeah, she's good though. I like her a lot as an actress.
A psychological horror movie that I like a lot. I think I recommended this to you. It's called Frailty.
I've not seen that.
It's direct. So it came out in the early 2000s. It was directed by Bill Paxton, the actor. And he also stars in it. And it is one of my favorite, not just psychological horror movies, but just favorite horror movies ever. And even calling it a horror movie is stretching it a little bit, because I'll just say that, you never, actually, I won't even say like what the supernatural elements are or aren't. But I will say, so the movie, it opens up in the present day, and Matthew McConaughey, he's in it. He plays a pretty big part in the role in the movie. And so it takes place in a small town in Texas, and there's been a string of murders happening. And so Matthew McConaughey, he goes to the police department, and he tells him, I know who the murderer is. And I can show you where he buried, his latest victims. And then, he goes, but before I do that, I have to tell you, the backstory, and because he's my brother. And so then it cuts to 20 years earlier or something, and Bill Paxton plays the dad of these two little boys, and the mom had passed away recently, and it's like this very sweet, like idyllic, little family. Like he's a mechanic, but he's a really good dad, and the kids and the boys and everything. But then one night he wakes them up in the middle of the night, and he goes, "Boys, something wonderful just happened. An angel from heaven came to me, and he said, and he gave me the ability to see demons in human form, and he wants us to kill people who kill these demons in human form." And so they go around, they start killing people. He starts seeing visions of demons in the form of humans, and so they start kidnapping and killing them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so so both of the boys are just going along with it, but then one of the boys claims to have the ability to see, to have the same ability. But then the other brother's like, Dad, we're just killing people. Like something crazy is going on. And so it's that little boy is supposedly Matthew McConaughey grown up and describing all this stuff, and he thinks that his brother's back, and he's the one who's killing people because he's still having the same vision. But I won't give any more away, because it's a fascinating movie, because I think it explores like belief and religion in an interesting way. And despite the content of the movie, it's not a very violent movie. Like most of the violence happens off screen. It's not a body count movie. It's actually I think it's a very thoughtfully made thriller drama with some horror elements. But I highly recommend it, and it explores a lot of moral gray areas that I've never seen in other movies before. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds really sweet.
Yeah.
What are some like the staples of the subgenre? Like you said, Seven, I think, and would you? Yeah, Seven is. I guess that would be psychological horror, right? Yeah. Seven is
I love that one.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm looking here. Silence of the Lambs, Psycho. Yeah, let's talk about Psycho.
Yeah. Psycho's a great one. I watched that one not too long ago.
Psycho is a great one. I mean, 1960.
Yeah,
that's a classic. Like, because it has probably the most iconic slasher scene in cinematic history.
Yeah.
But it has a psychological element to it of the mom, right? And his, what's his name?
Norman Bates.
Norman Bates's real self, and that one's very sweet, and kind of set the groundwork for, I think. I mean, would you say that was like the cornerstone of psychological horror?
I think so. I think it's also, and I think we mentioned this on a previous episode, it's kind of like a proto slasher movie too. But yeah, it's one of those movies where like, on its surface, it's tame by today's standards. But like when you kind of dig into it, it's like it's actually much more disturbing than I think we kind of realize. I mean, the idea of like this guy who's got his mom's corpse in his basement, and he's got her propped up, and he's talking to her, and he's dressing up like her. It's like, that's actually really fucking disturbing. It's not as graphic. It's not as graphic as if that movie came out today. It would be a lot more graphic, but it's like
they made a remake, right?
They did, yeah, and it was garbage.
I didn't even see it.
Gus Van Sant directed, which is kind of disappointing.
Who stars in that?
Vince Vaughn plays Norman Bates, and Hayes.
He does?
Yeah.
What?
I know, he's terrible in it.
Vince Vaughn plays Norman Bates. I thought this movie was way older. When did this come out?
Late 90s, I think 97 or
oh shit. So that's like a young Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Like Swingers was like 95.
Yeah. So this is a few years after that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It was pretty much like a shot for shot remake of the original. It's pretty terrible. And it's weird because they just copied Hitchcock, but it's just like, it just didn't fit in a 90s style. Even they re-recorded the score for the movie too. But I think it largely came down to it's just like the acting was not good at all. I think it was badly miscast. It's just a bad movie, I think.
Let's talk about the original then. So psychologically, I'm not saying this is necessarily horror. I guess it kind of is, but this was probably one of the earliest bait and switches that's done real well, with the main girl who you think is going to be what now we would call like a final girl. You kind of assume that, I mean, that there's going to be killing in this movie. It's called Psycho, right? Like you've heard bad things are going to happen. But you kind of assume that she's going to survive, and like, not at all. She dies super quick. And like I said, a very famous, infamous fashion. I think that, like, even when I watched Psycho for the first time, maybe for the second, like I forget the first time I saw it, because I feel like growing up, you don't like sit down and watch movies as much. You're watching more piecemeal. But like when I watched it as a reviewer a couple of years ago, or last year, 2 years ago, I was still surprised by how quick that is.
Yeah.
And that's very, I think, psychological too, because the audience, I mean, they didn't have the term yet, the final girl, but I think it's almost like to be expected that you don't kill the perceived main character that early, and that's very psychological and really, really well done.
Yeah. Apparently that was Hitchcock's wife's idea, because he wanted to kill her off halfway through the film, and then she said kill her off in the first 30 minutes. So I think that that was kind of a brilliant stroke. I think her name was Norma Reville. I think she was kind of an unofficial like second opinion. She had like a pretty big yet secret hand in a lot of Hitchcock movies. I mean, like, that must have freaked audiences out. And also, I remember I looked this up. There was I don't remember, I wasn't there when it happened, but there was they had like these Hitchcock like cardboard cutouts, telling, like, urging like theater ushers not to let people in, like after the movie starts. and also to like telling the audience don't tell audiences, don't tell people what the ending is. I also heard that Hitchcock hired some assistants to go around to as many bookstores as they possibly could to buy copies of Psycho the book.
Really?
To make sure by Robert Bloch, just to make sure, like he did not want the secret to get out. He didn't want the twist to come out.
Is it the same in the book? Like
I believe so.
They didn't change that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In the book, apparently she actually gets decapitated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, Psycho's great.
Psycho is great. I love it's one thing, like looking back, if you don't know what's gonna happen, I love the voice, like how his mom's voice. Yeah. That's very, very funny. And that actor who played Norman Bates? I
can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Well, we'll look that up, but he's fantastic. He's
Anthony Perkins, I believe.
Okay, that does sound right. I can check that, but he's so, like, this is why I was so shocked when you said Vince Vaughn. I'm like, he's so boyish.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously adds to the character. What I love in Psycho is the final scene where I don't know if he was directed to do this or if this was him, but when he's like sitting there in the chair, I don't know, I forget if he's at a police station or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he looks up at the camera, but it's not like the way he does it. It's so hard to explain on a podcast, but the way he does it, it's like gradual. It's not like looking up and then just like his eyes just shoot up. It's like it kind of goes like it's like 1, 2, 3, yeah. And I just think that's like so that makes all the difference.
Yeah,
that there's this like growth inside of him, or there, like I don't know, maybe I'm looking into that too much, but it's not just like crazy eyes, right? It's not like, oh, we found what he is and he's crazy eyes, and he does kind of have crazy eyes when he is found out and he's going to stab and they grab him by the arm, and that's also great, but like this like deep-seated insanity that he has inside of him, I think is told just in a glance at the camera. Like looking directly into the camera in that kind of step-by-step way.
And I like how they gradually superimpose the mom's skull over his face the last shot.
Yeah.
A lot of people have had a problem with the ending where like the psychologist explains it was actually probably the first time that they ever used the term transsexual in a movie.
Oh, right. They do.
Yeah. Because there's like a psychologist, and he says, and he's talking about, the fact that he's wearing his mom, he's dressing up as his mom.
Yeah.
But which again is so disturbing, but it's one of those things like you don't really like if you just watch it, you kind of forget. It's like, when you think, God, that's so fucked up. That's really messed up.
Yeah.
But a lot of people had complained about the ending of like kind of explaining, his condition and his motivation, which I can see, but it's like, I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of cool little.
Yeah. Like it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm with them. Like, I was like, do we need that? Like,
yeah, I
don't know. We're not here for a psychological evaluation of this patient. Like, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. I'm like, oh, it's kind of weird, but whatever.
No, yeah, I think if they'd have gotten rid of that scene and just cut to Norman, where it's just like, because the psychologist he gives a pretty in-depth explanation about how the mom's persona took over him, and it's like, I'd rather keep that a little ambiguous of like, was he possessed by his mom, or was he just go crazy, or was it something else entirely? Like, But overall, Psycho is a damn good psychological horror movie.
It is. Should we discuss any other specific ones, or more of the?
Yeah, actually, there's another one I want to bring up. I don't know if you've seen it or heard of it. It came out in 2020. It's called Relic. It's an Australian.
No, it's actually on my list, and it's been sitting on there for like years, like after 3 years. I guess it just hasn't come up free. Like, I'm not going to pay to see it.
It was up on YouTube for the longest time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I could probably watch it on YouTube. No, I've not seen it, but it has been on that list. Kind of, it's like I say, I stockpile horror movies for the season, and then if I don't get to them, I'm like, oh, it's not. I watch horror throughout the year too, but no, I've not seen it.
I highly recommend it. That's
okay.
That one does a terrific job of blending, family drama with psychological and even a little bit of body horror. And so the basic kind of plot of it is this old woman who lives by herself. Her daughter and her granddaughter come to visit her, and she's suffering from like dementia, I believe.
Right.
So her daughter's there, and to go check up on her, and then she wants to put her in a home, but the teenage daughter is like, no, I love grandma, she can take care of herself. But it's implied that there's something in the house that's maybe like it's not just dementia, that there's something else going on with her. And what I love about it is that it's, not to get topical or anything, but like it's a very female-centric movie without being heavy-handed. Like, because it deals with, a grandmother, her daughter, and her teenage daughter. So there is, I think, explores, the mother-daughter, granddaughter relationship in a way that's not heavy-handed. That it's got some really cool creepy. The closest movie I can compare it to would probably be like Hereditary, of like this perfect blend of family drama and horror.
Yeah.
Where they're intertwined really well.
It's
Australian though. Warning. It's
Australian, I can't watch it. I simply can't do that unless I dub. Can I just dub it in a different accent? Dub it in like American English, British English, even South African English. It's anything but Australian. Would Hereditary be psychological horror?
I guess, but there's also some pretty it's pretty explicitly supernatural though too. So.
Yeah, supernatural, cultish. I mean, a lot of these overlap. There's like Venn diagrams of subgenres. I'm starting to think now, like the pure psychological horror maybe isn't my favorite category. I'm trying to like Skinamarink, Enid's Men, like those are pure psychological horror.
Yeah.
But like there's basically no violence. I mean, like there's a little, but it's vast majority psychological, confusing, disorienting. I can't think of any other like. What about what's the term I'm looking for? Not surreal, like surreal horror. I guess I'm not. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. But I don't know.
Oh, I have one. Did you ever see John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness?
No.
That's a pretty solid one. It's very Lovecraftian. It's very explicitly Lovecraftian one. Came out in 1995. It's got Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I like him. He plays an insurance investigator. Just like looking for bogus claims.
Yeah.
And so his latest case involves a publisher, and like their most famous I guess client is this guy named this horror writer who's basically kind of based off of Stephen King. Where it's just like everybody loves him, everybody reads his stuff, every single one of his books is a huge hit. Your favorite guy, your favorite political thinker and commentator. But
King cringe.
Stephen Cringe.
Stephen Cringe. Such a shame because he is great. His work. Yeah. Oh well.
But anyways, so this horror author, his name's Sutter Kane. He's gone missing, and so the publisher's just like, we want to know if he's gone missing because we have this. I guess there's like some kind of huge insurance claim on him. So
life insurance policy.
I guess that's what it is. Yeah. And so Sam Neill's character, like he thinks it's a publicity stunt because he doesn't care about horror. So he's just like, yeah, this is you guys are just looking for new ways to scam people. And so he goes to the small New England town That Sutter Kane
very
wrote a lot.
Lovecraftian.
I know, right off the bat. Ooh, New England. That Sutter Kane supposedly made up, but he just ends. But after driving around, he actually stumbles upon it, and so many of the characters that were featured in his works are actually real. And so he's still skeptical. So yeah, like these are just actors. Whoever stumbles upon it wins a free copy or whatever. But it starts to be revealed that Sutter Kane is actually basically being possessed by these ancient gods.
My God,
I know, yeah.
That sounds literally like a Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's very Lovecraftian.
Yes.
He's it's a little confusing, but I recommend it because there's a lot of literary stuff in it if you're into horror literature.
I am. That does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
The 90s. What's this one called?
It's called In the Mouth of Madness. It's directed by John Carpenter.
Oh, I've heard of him. I recognize the name.
Yeah. Most famous for Vampires, starring James Woods.
Hey, I like James Woods.
Yeah, me too.
He's, it's good. I like him a lot in
Hercules.
The
Disney one. Yeah, he played Hades in the
oh,
Disney
did he?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, he's very good in that. Hercules is great. Hercules is underrated, actually, I think.
Yeah. A psychological horror film that I did not like.
Let's hear it.
And which made it even more disappointing was that it came from A24.
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
Lamb.
Oh, Lamb. That's not what I thought you were gonna say.
Oh, what do you think I was gonna say?
Beau's Afraid.
Psychological
horror.
I guess it's kind of.
I haven't seen either of them. I have Lamb. I have them both on my list.
Yeah.
Lamb's not good.
I didn't care for it. No,
Okay.
It's kind of a folk horror cycle. It's weird. Like it started off interesting.
Yeah.
So there's this couple. They want to have a kid, and so the wife gives birth, but it's mostly human. It's a baby. It's like human, but with like a lamb's head.
All right.
Yeah. But it does a great job of building up a lot of tension in very simple ways. Like, like there's like close-ups of like going up to like sheep's, like their faces, and you think, oh shit, something crazy is going to happen. Like they're all like, talking, communicating with each other or some shit. Like there's something weird going on, but it just never really builds up to anything. So it builds. There are a lot of scenes where like something ominous is happening, and then it just cuts to like the family doing some regular thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, all right. But it keeps doing that. And I just didn't care for the payoff. I guess it's more folk horror, but like, there's something vaguely supernatural going on, but I don't know. I just didn't really, I thought maybe it was based, it feels like a modern update of like some Scandinavian folktale. Cause you know how like a lot of those old timey folk tales, they just don't make any fucking sense. Like, where it's just like, the man and a woman, they gave birth to a lamb, and then the lamb grew up, but then the lamb's real father came back to get revenge in the end. And you're just like, but what's the fucking like? So I dug into it. I don't think it was based on any existing thing. If it was based on, if it was inspired by a folktale, I would have given it more like, okay, maybe there's a cultural thing that I'm just not quite picking up on, but it was just a dumb movie, I think. So
yeah, that's unfortunate because I do have that on my watch list. I might still watch it, but
it's got Noomi Rapace or whatever.
Noomi Rapace, yeah.
I like her. She's a good actress and she's good in it, but she's kind of wasted in it though.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other psychological horror movies?
Not that I can think of to discuss. So I don't know if you want to wrap the season off. That's it for Horrorfest.
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
We did it.
We did, huh?
Yeah, obviously we can do horror episodes throughout the year. We did it in July also. But yeah, that was fun. I like doing this. The subgenres. We'll do 4 different ones next year.
Yeah.
I think.
It is a nice break away from culture war crap.
Yeah.
Politics and
Oh, not another Israel-Palestine episode. I was like, do we? I don't think we have to.
Oh no.
I don't know.
You got any Halloween plans though, man?
Not really. I have a wedding that weekend.
Oh, bogus.
Yeah, and then Halloween's like a Tuesday. I don't know if the churn are going to come to the house. I haven't gotten a trick or treat here in 3 years that I've lived here.
Really?
So, which is weird because I live on kind of a busy street, I guess. There's a sidewalk, and I don't know. I was also an idiot and was like, "Oh, they'll trick or treat on Saturday." It's like, no, you do trick or treat on Halloween.
Yeah.
I forgot that as a kid. I was like, "Oh, that's right. They actually trick or treat on Halloween."
Yeah.
Whether it's like a Tuesday or a Friday or Saturday, doesn't matter. So I remember I bought a bunch of candy my first year here. I'm like, I'm living in the suburbs. I have trick-or-treaters. Like, no one came. And I was like, this sucks. Like, this sucks so much. Like, oh, man. But we'll see. I don't know. I want to be the guy who gives out, like, cans of cream corn.
I have some ghetto ass family up in the Bay Area, and they we were gonna stop by. I was a kid. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old, and we were gonna go by to say hi to them. And we were driving by, and they were passing out cups of soda.
Cups of soda?
Yeah, just like like red cups
poured out. Really?
Yeah. And like, oh, we don't have any candy, but we got some soda. So I was like, no, we're not stopping there. No thanks.
It's funny. Like in your old neighborhood, like where you grew up, or in LA?
Oh yeah, up in the Bay Area where I grew up. And it's funny because like it was family. They grew up like they live like 8 minutes away from us, but we just never saw them. And then so when we're like, oh, let's go surprise them. Okay, now we remember why we don't see them. Now we remember why we don't invite them. Tacky ghetto.
It's so funny. Yeah, my friend's dad, like literally my next door neighbor. He we would always go to he'd come to my house. We'd like be all dressed up, and then we'd start at his house. Like we go back to his, and his dad was jokingly like give out cans of peas. So I'd be like, all right, and don't eat it all. Like save some for later.
Oh shit!
The cans of corn and peas, and it was very funny. Even back then, I was like, oh, it's a good one.
Oh man. When I was a kid, my my uncle they would go all out. He and his wife, they would go all out for Halloween, and just decorating the front yard. And so he had a dummy that he had hanging from the front tree, and it didn't look scary enough to him, so he put a gorilla mask on it, and then people complained. They called the cops.
Wait, why?
I guess the connotation of like hanging a monkey.
Oh, it was hanging.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed
from a
that
noose
part.
from a tree.
Yeah.
So I guess.
So I gotcha. Great stuff. Understood. Yeah. All right.
Oh, but
it's a stretch, but
I do love the memes that come out this time of year. Like people will take. There's one that was like similar to soda in a cup thing, where it's like they had like this person took a picture of their front porch for Halloween, and it was like a basket, and it was filled with like plastic bags filled with Sprite. And then like a sign, and then like a plate of cigarettes, and it says, "Take one bag of Sprite and one cigarette and leave."
Yeah, man. We had those too. The take one and leave. I don't know. I feel like I was on the honor. I was good with the honor system, but there'd always be like 14-year-olds who would just like take all of it.
It's like, why can't my neighborhood have a Michael Myers to get rid of those fuckers?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, my dad would go with us when we were kids, and he would go as Indiana Jones every year. He had a leather jacket and like the hat. And then he was at every year.
Yeah.
Ever. He was Indiana Jones.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
My go-to is Slash. I've been doing that for the last like 6 years. So
yeah. I mean, the years I have dressed. Last year I was a couple's costume. So I was James Dean, and my fiance was Natalie Wood.
Oh, cool.
She actually does kind of look like Natalie Wood, which is sweet because she was my celebrity crush. And I got like, and it's awesome. Is like I still wear the red jacket. It's just like now part of my wardrobe. and I was James Dean Rebel without a cause, I should say, and she was Natalie Wood. And that was fun. It wasn't scary, obviously, but that was a fun one.
Yeah.
A bunch of friends. Like friend ones are always fun. Because you could do like large groups, we were like pilots a few years ago, like Top Gun pilots. So we all wore like, the jumpsuits and shaved and did the aviators. My favorite, and then I won't share, but my favorite costume I ever did was my fraternity in college. We went as Seinfeld characters, and my friend, the guy who went as George, actually shaved his head, like the top of his head, hair around, and he went all out. It was very funny. Awesome. I was Putty. I was David Putty. So I wore a shirt. Yeah,
feels like an Arby's night.
Yeah. I wore a shirt. I mean, it's kind of like last minute. So I did a D on my chest for the Devils, because that's a famous Putty scene. And then I wore a T-shirt that said "Have a question, ask the 8 ball." Like have a question, ask the 8 ball. That feels like an Arby's night. It's such a good line. he has some of the best lines in that show, and he's like not in it that much, but he's like, one of my favorite lines is like, why do I care? I'm not the one going to hell.
I was just bring up that scene, and then Elaine, she's complaining about, like, why aren't you worried about my eternal soul going to hell, with the caves and the heat? And he goes, it's gonna be rough.
Dave, man, you should care about my soul. I'm going to hell.
Hey, you took my Jesus fish, didn't you?
Yeah, man. I love Putty. I love that he's the devil, because like as a Devils fan myself, and who follows the social media, they use that all season long. They use like the different devil scenes from "We're the Devils, the Devils, El Diablo." Yeah. Very good. He like goes to Devils games dressed up still.
Oh, good.
Like he'll show up. Yeah, he'll show up, and it's very fun. Because I think he actually is like from Jersey.
Yeah. Remember the very last episode where they're all sentenced, they all get jail sentences. Yeah. And then Elaine's like, "Putty, don't wait for me." And he goes, "All right." He just walks away.
All right. There's a stare at the back of that seat. Yeah. Now we're just doing Putty's. Funny lines. I know. But yeah, it's like an Arby's night. That should be like what it like. Arby's should use that.
Yeah,
as like
their tagline, like, feels like an Arby's night.
Just him going, feels like an Arby's night.
Okay.
All right. The Horrorfest.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everybody, have a safe, good, consensual Halloween.
Yes.
A reckless Halloween too.
Stay reckless. Fight the crits this Halloween.